Hello and welcome to another Silmarillion film project. I am Dave Kale. I'm back after a one episode. I missed last week, right?
Yes.
Okay, I thought so. I thought so. My bad. End of school year
Oh yeah,
distraction.
things are complicated this time of year.
Yes, the kids are almost done. So, but anyway, yes, I did miss last time, but I'm back, and we're joined by the much more reliable trio of the Tolkien Professor Corey Olson and Nick and Marie. And we have a special guest, Phillip Menzies, tonight because that's right, it's music commissioning time.
That's right.
Can't
That's right.
believe it. I can't believe the same way it's hard to believe that we're at the end of another school year. It's hard to believe that we've reached this point in a season of the Silmarillion film project where we're back doing music. I feel like we just did this episode for last season
That's right.
recently.
Yeah, it was longer ago than it seems, but yes. And it's so we're going to discuss the music that we want. So this is the fun day where we get to assign Phil lots of impossible projects. Though, Phil, the consolation is that this year you will have fewer impossible projects than last year for sure. Right, so compared to season 6, it's going to be all downhill from here. Really, I mean, I can't. Yeah. I mean,
Season six will be the most thorough, and I'll have enough material to release an album.
exactly. Yeah. No. Absolutely. Absolutely.
100% should do.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. So just a couple quick announcements before we begin. We've got a whole bunch of moots and things coming up. We've got our moot calendar filling up for the fall campaign. We also have a whole bunch of it's actually several more moots that are still in process and trying to find their way firmly onto the calendar here. But we have a big moot season coming up. The nearest of our regional moots, of course, is going to be what is the next year in Signum year, next academic year, the very beginning of it. Cascade Moot in Seattle, Washington on August 31st. However, coming up before that is Mythmoot 11, whose theme is the resilience of imagination, and that is on June 20th. And boy, have we had all kinds of awkward difficulties with. There have been obstacles this year in the path of Mythmoot that have been. It's not quite as significant as the year when all of a sudden our venue was filled with 20,000 pediatric refugees, but second only to that year have been the challenges we've been facing this year. Registration for that is going to be open very soon. It's going to open tomorrow. In fact, I am just finding here through the comments. We are definitely opening registration tomorrow. Our team's been working really hard on that. It's like super late in the game this year, but Mythmoot is going to be as awesome as ever, and we are looking forward finally to being able to open the doors to let everybody into that. So that's going to be happening on June 20th to the 23rd in our customary venue in Leesburg, Virginia. All right. And then oh dear. Sorry, I'm just laughing because I'm looking down at the date for Stuttmoot, our first moot in Germany, which is going to be awesome and is also going to be the week that the Rings of Power finale is going to be playing. So I'll be in Germany when that happens, which will be fun. Anyway, who knows? Who knows what's going to happen that weekend? All right.
Hopefully, it'll release in Germany at the same time.
That is very hopeful. Yeah, I think they do. I think they did last time. So I'll be, watching it at like 5 or 6 a.m. on the whatever.
Right before bedtime.
Exactly, right before bedtime. Anyway, we'll see what happens. But okay, let's get back into things here. Let's talk about. So, Phil, first question before we even talk about season 7 stuff. I mean, we were joking about all the impossible tasks that were set for you in season 6. Of course, everyone remembers season 6 is the Baron and Luthien season, which is not only just stuffed full of music, but it's stuffed full of really important music, right? I mean, the culminating, of course, with the Song of Luthien before before Mandos. But even, I mean, the earlier on, Phil, the song that you debuted at Osmoot this past year, the song battle between Sauron and Finrod, one of the big, and even the songs that Luthien herself doesn't sing are huge, like and just enormously important in season 6. And then of course there is all the music of Luthien herself. So there was way too much in season 6 for you to do during the course of our discussion of season 6. What are the big one is still the one that we haven't heard yet, right? The big one that we haven't heard yet is still the Song of Luthien before Mandos, right?
Yeah, there's more than one big one.
Yeah, I know there's more than one big one. Yeah,
there's more. That's the finale. That's the climax. But because I've started I started to look at, okay, what's next from where I got to, and that was that was the Finrod Sauron song battle. So I said, okay, what's next? And then I had a look. Okay, well, it's Luthien versus Sauron.
Yes,
that is another song battle.
Yes.
In itself, even though Huan is actively involved in that whole thing, they start off singing to each other. So we need another song battle, and Ilana has graciously agreed to help work on that as well. And then of course there's Luthien's song before Morgoth,
right?
Which is going to be another.
Yeah, I was thinking about that one too.
Song. And then culminating in the song before Mandos. I have been working on. I've nearly got ready the Song of Parting.
Right.
That Beren sort of sings.
Right.
But really Dairon sings, because Dairon is composing it. So I hope you'll, when that is published and we talk about it, I hope you will enjoy the counterpoint between those two characters. I actually enlisted the aid of a friend from work for Beren vocals. You didn't know that Beren had a Australian accent, did you?
No, but I'm not surprised at all at this point. As we were just discussing, all of our friends with small children in the house who watch Bluey all the time, everyone now has an Australian accent. So Beren should be the least of my surprises there. But yeah, exactly. No, that's great. That's great.
So yeah. Look, it was great to be able to present that at Osmoot.
Yes.
My feeling was that there really wasn't enough time to talk about it. Thoroughly. Yes. So I'm looking forward to a fill-in music session during the season to do some catch-up on some music before we do the season 7 music at the end of the whole season.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, look, it was great. Osmoot was great, and I'd just like to give a shout out to our Herne Ennerith people.
Yes.
That's our Australian Tolkien Fellowship, and just to let people know, we know that there are a lot of Australians who listen to your podcasts, and I'd just like to tell those people out there, we have an active Australian Tolkien Fellowship called Herne Ennerith. And they've got active fellowships in Brisbane, in Sydney, in Canberra, and in Melbourne. And Melbourne's so active that they're currently organising next Osmoot.
That's right. We're headed to Melbourne next year. I can't wait. Very excited to get down to Melbourne.
Come and join us. Look for us on Facebook.
Yeah, and Herne Ennerith is such a great group of people. I mean, I've been so delighted to get to meet so many of them at the last 2 Osmoot events that we've had, which have been in January the last 2 years, and our next one's scheduled for January of this coming year, again down in Melbourne. But yeah, so it's just such a wonderful group of folks, and definitely strongly encourage any Australians listening to look up Herne Ennerith.
Ennerith, that's right. And we have monthly Zoom catch-ups where we get a paper presented. I think I presented a music one month before last, which was great.
Nice. Excellent. Well, that's That is awesome, and it was exciting to be on the spot at Osmoot this past year for the big debut, the worldwide release of the song battle between Finrod and Sauron. So yeah, we'll look forward to discussing that more. It is one of the other reasons, of course, I wanted to bring this up is I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that although I don't ever actually feel really guilty about the work that we assign you, Phil, I do realize that, like, with the huge number of really important songs from season 6, and that we're kind of understandably behind, as we talk about commissioning season 7 stuff, so again, I know there's still a large amount of season 6 stuff that you're still in the middle of. So I don't know how, obviously we don't want to heap so much on you that we get like we end up years behind, with the music. But then again, I'm still looking forward to talking about our season 7 commissioning here. So we'll figure it out.
I'll do some season 7 tunes. Don't you worry about that.
Excellent.
There will be some from season 7. Season 6, I'll be catching up season 6 for years. So,
Yeah.
so that'll give us some good.
Yeah, I think we kind of spread that out at this point. We do season 7 with a special and another Baron and Luthien song, and we could release one more a year for the next 6 or 7 years. So
exactly.
Yeah. Then culminate with the Song of Luthien before Mandos, with the War of Wrath at the end of the first age, right? I mean, that would be. And
we've still got that lovely song that Evan wrote, which would be the end credits song. So
yes,
so that would be relatively easy to whip up, and Megan's on board for vocals. So yeah, but I'm holding off on that one so that we can get the other stuff out of the way first, and maybe that'll be our end of the Silmarillion in SilmFilm.
Right.
The Quenta Silmarillion.
Yeah.
Quentus. Yes.
Yes. The end of the Quenta. Exactly.
Fortunately, season 7 is going to have comparatively few musical numbers.
Yes, there's very little diegetic music in season 7, certainly compared to season 6. Though that's it. Yeah,
I imagine a lot of very sad, tragic pieces as we roll past the battlefield, just watching people getting just obliterated. It's
Well, that's. Exactly. Yeah, well. Hang on, let me not get ahead of myself. Well, I was just going to segue to, but let us proceed in a more orderly fashion. Okay, instead of just me herring off and randomly starting to talk about random things. So, season 7 themes. Let's talk about season 7 themes. What new themes would we need? What earlier themes would we want to revive? And then we'll be wanting to think about scenes or episodes, important moments in season 7 where we're going to want to be making use of the musical themes. So, yeah. Phil, I
think that's a good framework to look at, our discussion. What themes do we want to revive that we already have? Yeah, what new themes are needed, and if the script team has in mind a particular scene that would make a great scene with music, then let's get it up there as a possibility.
Yeah. So Phil, let's do so obviously the big thing, as Nick already mentioned, right? This is the Near Ninth or Nodiad theme, right? So let's start off talking about sorrow, grief, suffering, right? Those are some of the major things obviously that we want to touch on, that are going to come up obviously in this season. Can we do a little review of the themes that you've done before? What are themes that you've done that you feel are going to be most readily sort of connectable, even if they might be sort of woven in and changed in some ways? What are some of the materials that we already have, thematically speaking, that you think would kind of come in there?
Well, okay, we have The Grief of Men to begin with,
Yeah.
written by Carita Alexander, and is actually used as the intro music for which everyone would have heard
Right. Just heard a few
before
minutes
they
ago.
joined
Yeah.
us here. Yep. So we've got The Grief of Men. Won't be using so much of the Gift of Iluvatar in that section unless you guys decide to show the spirit world at the same time. But yeah, The Grief of Men. We also have the Sorrow of the Eldar. And there will be lots of that.
Yes.
I imagine you have a piece called called the Fall or Fall. I think that would
The
probably,
Fall, yes, yes, and I think that can probably be used effectively
yeah.
in some of those, like possibly in Fingon's death, is
Mm,
like that's the ultimate
yeah.
of someone falling from their position, and it depends sort of how much blame you place upon him in that situation for his own demise, because and how much they take into account. This is something that I was thinking of the other day. How much in their planning, they're planning for a dragon, but surely they have to plan for Balrogs as well. Like, what is the plan? And it can't just be that the Balrogs come on the field and
Right.
like they know they're going to bring out the Balrogs.
Right.
So is that his own folly that has led him to that position to get squashed by the Balrogs?
Well,
Yeah. Fall is more an internal thing about a
yeah.
Right.
person's
I was
internal
I was
demise.
I was thinking about Fall in connection to Uldor in some way, especially if we
Yeah.
want to give Uldor, a sort of not to make Uldor just a bad guy from the beginning, right? If there's some kind of a process of fall,
Yeah.
temptation and fall in Uldor, in his rebellion against his father, and then his betrayal of the elves, that would seem like Fall would work there.
Not to mention, we probably need like a whole musical motif that follows the
Oh yeah,
Brelanders.
we'll get there. That's a
Right.
totally new thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But when I'm saying the fall, I'm actually thinking of like the fall of Feanor, which has kind of and tied in with like the Curse of Mandos, which is like it's the thread that gets us to this point. Like Fingon is where he is because all that other stuff happened. You know.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
the
We
piece The Fall was originally associated with Sauron, right?
Mm,
he was the first
it was
one it was
supposed
applied to, right?
Right.
Yeah,
Back in season
yeah, it
one?
was in no, season two.
Season two, okay.
Season two was when you started to talk about Doom, Doom, Fall, and Purpose. They were
Yeah.
the three thematic themes that we had for
Those
season
it,
two.
it wasn't until season 2 that we started doing those kind of conceptual themes, as I recall.
That's right,
It was
yes.
mostly we're still mostly establishing themes, like just the themes
Valar.
for people, like the Valar and such in
Yeah.
season 1. There were enough new characters to introduce, and who were of course going to be establishing these like iconic thematic motifs for the entire run of everything that we were focused on that, as I recall, in season 1. And then season 2 we started getting these more plot oriented ones.
Yeah. Unless there's any sort of foreboding that needs to be shown with the Doom theme, but I was thinking that would be more appropriate to hold that back until next season
Right
with Turin. That's going to feature heavily with Turin.
right
And
Yeah.
and Hurin's actions and Morgoth and Hurin.
mm.
Yeah. Well, most of the other themes are really around races, places, which obviously those in the scenes we'll get to the Nernaeth, but obviously those can be peppered with a racial theme along with like someone from the Noldor is about to get crushed, so you have the Noldor theme, and then the Sorrow of the Eldar followed directly after it.
Speaking of places, I'm kind of surprised that we haven't thought. What's a place that really needs kind of its own like musical idea surrounding it? The Fens of Serek. we wind up in the Fens of Serek an awful lot on the show.
It's true.
Okay, I'll see if I can put something in. I don't think a YouTube video called "The Fens of Serek" would get a lot of views.
No, I don't imagine. And also,
who knows? You might be surprised.
I don't know that it would even be like its own piece, but there would I'm thinking
feeling,
right? Like almost like
the whole idea is that you get mired down there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that nobody's fighting in the Fens of Serek because they want to be in the Fens of Serek. Like nobody set out thinking, it would be a great place to have this battle is the Fens of Serek. Like so people get stuck there.
Yes.
Yep, yeah. I think it sounds like a good small motif that would appear during the battle to sort of it's like the scene where Sam puts his foot into the dead marshes, that sort of thing, and then the theme comes in, and then for a little while you have that feeling of being stuck there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm just thinking through ideas. We're going to talk about hope in a little bit, but hope is the kind of the big theme that we're working with in this season. So that one aside for a moment, because it's so big, we're going to come back to that in a second. I'm trying to think if there are any other specific themes. The one that definitely occurs to me, which Phil, I think you were already thinking of as well, is the evanescent lightsomeness theme, bringing in, which is still my favorite name for a theme of all of them.
I thought you hated it.
No, it's fun. It's fun. But anyway, no, because I'm thinking like one, in some ways actually, like if there's a single character in this entire season who needs a prominent theme, I feel like it's Lilith, actually.
Yes.
Because her name is quasi-allegorical, right? I mean, she absolutely, represents a particular idea and feeling. And, it's very clear that, the soundtrack has a lot of work to do to make sure that feeling comes out when Lilith, every time Lilith is on screen. And I'm wondering if, so again, you have the lightsomeness theme, which I think can be adapted in that direction. The question in my mind then becomes, do we have, and this is something, obviously, especially since it's Lilith, and so therefore her death is very, very tightly related to the Turin story, and so therefore this theme would be of great usefulness in the following seasons too. But I'm thinking of the loss of that. Like, it's more than just sorrow. It's certainly not just like the grief of men or the sorrow of the Eldar, those kind of abstract and almost in a sense like ontological feelings, but rather the very specific, like the death of happiness, the kind of suffering that is just like, obviously I'm thinking about the plague and Lilith's death here, but
the idea that death is something that happens to humans, and therefore like humans have to learn how to accept it and elves have to learn to understand it, is one thing. The death of a child in a plague is something is wrong with this picture. Like, this shouldn't have happened. There's an anger mixed in with the grief, right? Like that this is something that is fair. Not fair. Exactly.
Even
that
in the
Lilith
context
had
of
her
mortality,
whole life ahead of her, and yet it was cut short. So something evil did that to her.
And that's something that then steals Huron's resolve. Comes out of that.
Yeah, you think about the examples of how many times in Tolkien's world in general we see like a beautiful thing being blighted, right? And the joy and the beauty of the thing being lost forever because even, you know, because of an active malicious act, right? There is an injustice to that. It's not just loss in the sense of like, well, this kind of thing happens and isn't that sad. It's a particular tragedy of that kind. So whether it's yeah, I mean, I'm thinking like in the Lord of the Rings, even like lots of examples come to mind, right? Like Faramir's memories of his dead mother, and I mean, like really simple things like that is really like small as compared to the plot, right? It's not a huge plot moment, but still those kinds of things come up.
Statue head that they find lying on the ground,
yeah,
with graffiti all over it.
Yeah,
now, of course, that turns out to be a
right.
A
it would
hope note.
Transform, yeah, exactly.
Right,
but the initial thing would be that, yeah. The loss,
and it's never going to be what it was. It
right.
doesn't matter what kind of light you put it in.
Right.
When that's the whole back to the loss of the two trees, like
Right.
that
Yes.
you can never go back. Like this theme of loss is throughout
Yes.
Ardamard for a reason, that you can't fix these things.
Yes. Yes.
And even like we mentioned, the two trees, the Valar Nessa, no, not Nessa, Nienna.
Yes.
And
Yes.
like you could even apply it in that situation where she is showing that grief with the birth of the trees.
I
that
like that. Yeah,
that
to
would
adapt
be
elements from the Nienna theme to this would be I kind of like that, actually.
Well, the evanescent lightsomeness is, I wrote it to have a certain amount of melancholy in it already. So it's supposed to be a sign marker which actually says
It's about to go.
this might look good, but it's going to end badly.
Right. Yeah.
So that was the intention of the piece, and I think it's good to actually foreshadow, even though Lalaith is laughing and happy, and it's all looking wonderful. The music is actually telling you something bad's going to happen.
Right.
So that was
agree.
my intention of what that music was supposed to do, and I even did use it in the Beren and Luthien meet piece of music. That was the music that she ran away and went dancing off into the distance with Beren following her in a non-creepy way.
Right. in that very delicate maneuver that we had to do.
That's why the music had to reflect that.
Yes.
Yeah, there's been a lot of times where I've been writing something, and I'm like, ooh, the music is gonna have to carry the scene for sure.
Yeah.
Which sort of reminds me, we've like the script that you discussed last week, which was a great script by Ilana. I give you script people permission to put in score,
like directives,
score direction, score a little bit like that scene in the behind the scenes material for the Return of the King. They actually, in the music section, they actually say that for the bit where Gandalf first enters Minas Tirith with Pippin and rides up the winding way to the very top, they said, let's just show a lot of visuals here and let Howard do all the work that needs to be done to make this a fantastic scene. So, and I got that feeling when the Eagles lifted up the three of them and flew them to Gondolin. I was expecting there to be like a gap to say like scenic shot, a little bit like how the episode began with that scenic shot of the eagle flying over everywhere. I expected a little bit of description there, so don't be afraid to insert scenic aerial shot here, music underscoring something like that.
Right. Yeah, especially Nick, as you say, if there are moments where you're like, the music is going to have to do a lot of work here to note like the work that you wanted to do would be good. Yeah.
Well, now that we have permission, that's good. It's generally considered bad form on the part of the scriptwriter to have the audacity to tell the score composer what his job is.
Right. Fair enough.
No, all good. And sometimes that inspires me.
Okay.
Oh yeah, I see one of the script teams saying, "Don't make that promise, Phil. We will abuse it." In the comments there.
Well, the nice thing about the nature of this project is that we can lob as many directives as we would like towards the music department. The music department can do with that what they will, and no one actually needs to put a piece of music behind a particular scene unless they want to.
Right.
Yeah.
Unlike
So
a
I
real
think-
production where you've got to put something in there.
Yeah. I think Evanescent Lightsomeness has to be attached to Lalaith. And you had this conversation like back in season 5. That was why I wrote it at that point, because you had this big conversation about the laughter and joy that fades all too soon.
Yes.
It took up like 20 minutes of one of the sessions, so I wrote it then, feeling inspired. So yes, I think yes, attach it to Lalaith, and any mention of her, the theme comes out. But yes, it can be used at other times, particularly when that idea of this is all going well, but it's all going to end in tears is going to happen. We roll it out again.
Yeah.
Do we have a theme that fits, like what Tom Shippey would call the idea of Northern courage?
Ooh, a Northern courage theme. That's really interesting.
I don't think that's an appropriate thing to call that, because I think you can find that around a lot of places.
Oh, sure. You can.
But-
You're saying you think you can find that kind of courage down south too? No, but I think
I'm
it's.
just saying.
I think it's. I mean, it's the phrase is not
Yeah.
to say that only people in the North feel this, but it certainly is made very famous in the literature of the people of the North, which
North,
is
yes.
why
Yes.
Shippey talks about that. Yeah, so you're talking about like the grim resolution in the face of almost certain defeat.
Yes.
The quote from the Battle of Malden.
Heart shall be
that
stronger.
As our
hope fadeth.
hope
Yeah,
fades.
exactly. Yeah.
So that concept of all hopes lost, time to fight harder.
Yes.
We could call it something else if we wanted to, but that's the idea.
It seems to be like the last stand of the Men of Dorloman seems to possess
Call for that.
kind of quality.
Yes, it does.
Yeah,
It's your Friends of Sarek theme.
Yeah.
Yeah, I sort of feel that we haven't talked about hope yet, but I sort of feel that should be associated with the whole build up of the Union of Mydros, and I imagine it to be a very heroic theme. And I was thinking of Am Dear Hope to have a heroic sound and sort of something that people can get behind. But in the end, it is going to fall apart, and we'll have Estelle in instead of that. So that was what I was thinking of the direction. To already have a heroic theme there based around the whole planning of the assault.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. But this is something where I'm thinking. So, like, we demonstrate through Hurin and Hur the hope themes and whatnot, but their guys is from their perspective, from most of them, they're just fighting until they're dead. Not all of them are going to have that kind of big picture. I'm doing this so that things will work out better in the end. I have a duty to do the right thing, even though it costs me personally. This is a little bit more, well, it's time to die now, and I'm going to do that having killed as many people.
I'm going to die
possible.
as well as I possibly can.
Right.
It's connected with there's a sort of stubbornness to it. I mean, it's a stubborn courage, a refusal to give up. Again, the fighting harder, not despite the fact that the end seems certain, but because the end seems certain.
Right. Once you know it's the end, make an end.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's worth
I'll have
thinking
them make
about.
such an end.
Yeah.
Another one of the clearest and most forceful. The two moments in The Lord of the Rings where this spirit is most clearly displayed is by Theoden there before he charges out of the Hornburg, and by Sam when he realizes that their food isn't going to last, and he knows that they can't possibly. There can be no plans for the trip back from Mount Doom. That wonderful scene where he feels himself to be turning into a creature of iron and horn, right, and moving at the moment which Tolkien says hope seemed to die. Or at the moment when hope died or seemed to die within
yes.
within Sam, right? That moment, his reaction to that. So we see it like personally in Sam. We see it in a military standpoint. The kind of courage that Theoden shows on Pelennor Field is quite different, right? Not less courageous, but it's a different kind of courage. The we're trapped. We're gonna be overrun. We're just so let's open up the doors and charge. That's the kind of stubborn courage. And it is a big deal. I mean, I think that I think that Chippy is right that this is certainly a thing, and certainly a thing that Tolkien thought about.
I think it makes us think of things like the Alamo and that kind of.
Well, I mean, different cultures have different ideas of what's the correct way to die in a desperate situation.
Yes.
Like, very few cultures are like, you should seek out those desperate situations and then die.
No, that's true.
But once you're there, what's the correct way to handle it? And this is a particular way of saying, because I'm going to fight up to my last breath, I will have, kept my honor, so to speak.
Right.
There's other ways of keeping your honor in different cultures.
I have been exposed to cultures, for example, where the correct thing to do in that situation is to die with dignity.
Right.
Is to allow yourself to be killed, which seems
different. Which is different.
It's different. It's a different culture. Yeah.
After thinking about it for a long time, I have started to kind of get it to a degree. I would still have trouble doing it.
Yeah.
That is a different kind of courage.
Yeah,
for
it
sure.
is. It is.
Yeah. To like stoically accept this is going to happen now.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think by titling it "When Hope Dies" it would be appropriate, and it coming off the back of like we're hopeful, that everything is going to pan out, and a musical theme that displays that optimism, and they're going to get the job done, and then to have that theme make a turn at that point when they realise it's not going to pan out for us. And then I can see the theme making a turn. I'm not sure how that turn would actually happen, but I'd like to sort of link the two together, just not to have this other thing come out of nowhere, but maybe have that Dear Hope theme make a turn into another mode, or from major to minor, something like that. Have the notes go in a different direction but keep the same chord structure, something like that, or have something underlying which sort of brings it down and ends in that sort of stubbornness of we're going to resist as long as possible.
Yeah.
No, I think that's good to link the two together.
Yeah.
Sort of makes sense musically.
Yes, agreed. All right, let's talk a little bit more about Amdir and Estelle. So you were already mentioning, Phil, that you're seeing Amdir becoming the primary theme for the Union of Maedhros, right? And that's what you were describing as you're thinking of this sort of grand and heroic theme for Amdir, right?
Yeah, exactly. Which can begin very simply in the like the first the first meetings, the first
Mm.
thoughts about we have
Mm.
to resist Morgoth,
Kindled.
more, yeah.
Yeah.
And then it can get grander and grander as the season goes on. But yeah, have it in a very feeling like a very heroic, and that it's gaining momentum as more and more people come on board and see Maedross's vision.
Now, did we have? I'm trying to remember. It's way too long ago for me to remember. When we did Fingon and Maedhros, like the rescue of Maedhros by Fingon, did we have? Were there themes like friendship themes and things that we associated? Was there anything that we did with
No,
that before?
no, we hadn't done anything before, but as I was re-listening to the season 7 sessions in preparation for today, and you spent a lot of time talking about that relationship between Fingon and
Yes.
Maedhros, and this was the last time we were going to see
Yes.
what such a strong positive relationship the two of them had. And I think in the previous seasons, when Maedhros was chained to the cliff, I had ideas and just thought, oh, like this needs a good musical piece to go with
Yes.
it, just to show that the strong bonds of friendship between the two of them. And then, yeah, but it doesn't have to be limited to them. It could be, let's make it broader into, yeah, is there a like a an element of friendship that we want to focus upon, on this, and it would be a new theme for this season. I haven't
Yeah,
got any concrete ideas, but
it
it
is.
seems like it's needed.
It strikes me that it's almost. I guess it's not that strange because apart from Fingon and Maedhros, it's the theme of friendship isn't hugely focused on in the Silmarillion, not nearly so much as it is in the Lord of the Rings, but it does seem to me that a friendship theme seems like a really good idea in general.
And we will have future use for it because we'll have Belig and Turin.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
exactly. So we will very soon have important use for it. Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So now it's hard because on the one hand, friendship, because friendships will happen in very different circumstances and between very different people, and so therefore there may already be other, kind of thematic elements that are going to be connected there, such that it may turn out to be challenging to kind of isolate a sort of a specific friendship theme, but anyway, but it certainly does seem worth thinking about.
In the case of this friendship, what makes it unique is that at least one party is very willing to risk his life to help the other guy out.
Yes.
So there is an element of recklessness to it, of it doesn't matter what this costs me, I'm gonna,
Yes.
prioritize the friendship. It, I mean, more or less goes both ways. Obviously, Maedhros wasn't into ship burning on account of
Yes.
the friendship,
Yes.
but what Fingon did kind of stands out a bit more.
Right. Well, sure. I mean,
a more active role there than
Yes.
just saying like,
Yes.
we don't really have to burn the ships. Okay, you guys do what you're gonna do.
Right. Maedhros didn't have exactly the same opportunity to show friendship as Fingon did. But yeah, I mean, it's, I'm sure if Fingon had been stapled to a cliff, Maedhros might have done something there too, but who knows?
Perhaps yes.
Yeah, and it's not unusual if you look at the Lord of the Rings movies and Howard Shore's work there. There are some themes which only appear once or twice in the entire trilogy, and it's like just a few seconds of music, and yet it warranted getting a mention in the music of the Lord of the Rings films book.
Right.
Things like the fall of men. I think there was a fall of men or the downfall of men, which was played once when Elendil got clobbered by Sauron.
Okay.
And
In
then
the prologue?
and then on the prologue, and it got played at the end of the movie when Boromir tries to take the ring.
Okay.
So in a way, it was sort of almost bookending the movie with the downfall of man at the beginning and the downfall of a man at the end of the movie. So I like it in terms of bookmarking. So it's not unusual that and those people who are really conscious of that might actually find those things. Like, that theme's the same as that theme there.
Right.
So,
I think it's interesting.
So back in season 4, you had a piece just called Hope, which, if I remember, is associated mostly with the character of Estelle.
Yes.
Aragorn.
Yes.
What do we see as the relationship between that and a piece that would demonstrate the Estelle that we come to? Specifically, I'm referring to the scene between Huor and Turgon when Huor, out of you and I, a new star shall rise, and so on and so forth.
Yeah. I think I've got some work to do on that. If you all remember, a couple of seasons ago, actually I think it was only last season, the opening music was from the Girdle of Melian, with that nice picture of Luthien standing beside the water. That piece of music that you hear at that opening is what I based Hope on.
Yes.
Okay.
So, that actually comes from the theme one of the Iron Lindelay, and I figured that it would be good to attach Hope to the first theme of the Iron Lindelay, and that this is how things are meant to be. So it is very climactic, that section there, and so I sort of made a tune with that little climactic piece there, but I think I can work on it and put some stuff sort of before that, weave that into it, because the way it sounds now, and it was attached with Aragorn, Estelle as a young boy, and I used that in the Rising of the Sun sequence, the Hiding of Valinor sequence, because I ended that with the return of the frame with Elladan and Elro here.
Right.
Finally bringing Estelle back to Rivendell after his adventures out with the Dunedain. So use it in that context, and it fit well with sort of where Aragorn was at that time. I'd like to continue associating that with Aragorn, but I think I can work on that and modify it, and
maybe an unresolved version of it. If that makes sense.
It does resolve. It can, it did resolve in that instance.
Yeah. But what I'm saying is to maybe use just a piece of it that doesn't resolve entirely in the way that, because we're talking about a prophecy, right? And so that resolution actually doesn't fully come to its end point. I mean, obviously it resolves in Eärendil, right?
Right.
But that itself also winds up getting down to Aragorn himself.
Right. And that's one of the things that I was thinking of there too, that, it may still be too early to write a full Eärendil theme, but when we do have an Eärendil theme, I would certainly want some of that to be heard in the From You and From Me a New Star Shall Arise prophecy moment. And so it strikes me in any case that Eärendil's theme, whenever we do get it, should be closely connected with the Estelle theme, and could also, as Nick is suggesting, therefore also be part of Aragorn's theme as well down the road. That connection would make some sense to, even apart from his name, Aragorn's name, that is that connection makes a certain amount of sense. And again, of course, needless to say, I'm thinking as well about Sam seeing the star and everything. There's Eärendil himself, appears in several of the important moments of Estelle, even apart from the name that his star is given, later on. So the fact that Eärendil and Estelle are pretty tightly bound together in the history of Middle-earth suggests that there should be a close connection there. So again, we don't have to do a full Eärendil theme, but thinking ahead, we got to know that Estelle and Eärendil are going to be pretty close together there.
Right. Yeah. Like the Fens of Seric essentially should come down off of that high Amdir brass down into the Death of Hope, which then lands in
the Stubborn Courage theme.
Well,
afterwards, but yeah.
Right, yeah. But what I'm saying is that itself drops us into the I know enough to make things worse. Drops us into the SL spot.
I see what you mean. The Death of Amdir leading to Estelle. Yes.
Right.
Yes. Which again is something that we see. I mean, again, it's when Theoden despairs of life, like that they're gonna win the battle at the Hornburg, that he charges. Right. It's when Sam becomes convinced that they are gonna die at Mount Doom that he, loses Amdir and embraces Estelle. So yeah.
Yeah. Well, and this, like, for example, I don't think that Éomer is experiencing Estelle at Pelennor Fields.
You don't think that who is?
I don't think that Éomer is experiencing Estelle at Pelennor Fields after he witnesses the death of Theoden, and he thinks the death of his sister, who, like, talk about what's the word that we decided is the anti-eucatastrophe, the catastrophe unlooked for.
Right. It is discatastrophic. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, by right, she shouldn't even be there.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
And
no, I mean, it's bride now to ruin in the world's ending is his response to that. That is not an Estelle response.
That is the Northern Courage.
Yes.
Northern Courage.
Yes.
Right. It's not until Aragorn arrives, and Aragorn, when he's at the Black Gate, he's experiencing Estelle, because I think that Aragorn believes that even if Sauron gets the ring and covers all the lands in a second darkness, he's still going to be but Ilúvatar's instrument in the end.
Yep. Yeah. No, I totally agree that the whole Black Gate strategy is an Estelle strategy from beginning to end, in the face of, like, in defiance of Amdir, basically.
But so no big deal. Just those very simple emotional notes, if you please, Philip.
There's a really interesting technique that I've heard where to great effect, where there's lots of music going on and then very low in the register you hear this melody, and this is this concept that I've got
Hans Zimmer move if I ever heard of one.
For the third theme of the Iron Lindley as well. This is how it has to happen.
Right.
All that cacophony and chaos going on with the brass and the bold, and then at a very low, deep level,
growing,
you get
from
this
beneath,
very slow thing growing and growing, and that would be how I imagine Estelle to be as well, because that's pretty much what the third theme of the Iron Lindley is about as well. Like they're inextricably linked. So they're the sorts of techniques that I would rely upon to sort of bring Estelle up. But I'm also interested to know, is it just the final scene with Hurin standing alone, shouting out, "Day will come again," that we hear that theme, or are there other places within the season where we are going to hear it? Are we going to hear it like associated with Gondolin at all? Are they the final hope? I mean, you said further off to looking at Eärendil. But are there other places within the season where we can just give a little pointer and say, hey, look at this over here. This is really what you should be paying attention to.
When in episode 1, when they're talking about Fingolfin, and Hurin he's not recounting the story of Fingolfin's death or anything like that, but when he's talking about Fingolfin and what he did. We should hear a muted version of the Estelle theme there, because Hurin doesn't get it and Turgon doesn't get it. Is kind of the problem, right? The problem is there are scarce. There are scarce moments in this season where anybody really gets it. I think that we'll hear it a lot whenever, like, we talked about having at some point a discussion between Hurin and Hor, where Hurin's like, all right, we're gonna go, like, are we doing the right thing? Is this, do you think that we're gonna win? And Hor is like, you have to fight evil.
Right.
We may or may not win, but we have to do the right thing, and it may not be us who reap the benefits of what we're going to do. So there, I think, would be another. Hor is really the only one who truly gets it until right up to the end. So Hor gives his prophecy, and that's when Hurin, it clicks for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if anyone is really, like, if there's a single character who is like the chief repository of Estelle in this season, I would nominate Hor, basically, as sure. That. But it's not like he's gonna be like the, he's going to be spouting Estelle all the way through, But I think
there's going to be a few moments, yeah.
He's the one who will show it, I think, more than anyone. But it's a fascinating question you ask, Phil, because the more I think about it, I'm like, actually, like, no, certainly not Gondolin. I think certainly not Gondolin yet, because it's not yet. Only after Tuor comes is there, does Estelle come to go? Because right now we don't want the music to lead anyone to think anything. Like right now, the Gondolin project is like, it's not gonna work out, right? The whole preservation of they are not fully on the right path yet. Yeah. The total isolationism is, it's not evil, but it's certainly not Estelle.
We've been saying pretty clearly that what Turgon is doing is not what he's supposed to be doing.
Yes.
According to Olmo.
Yes.
We've had enough people telling him this is not the thing.
Or at least this isn't the final thing.
Right.
Like, it's not like making Gondolin it's not like Gondolin is horrible or making Gondolin was a bad idea, but making Gondolin is step one of a project, right? Yeah. It's not the end point. Yeah. And mistaking the means for the end essentially is kind of what Turgon is going to be doing in Gondolin.
Well, ultimately, maybe Turgon's a little more lenient with the nobody leaves deal, and Aradel doesn't feel so trapped, doesn't go off marry Eol in the first place, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe if Turgon's a little less heavy-handed with Eol, maybe they don't wind up maybe he doesn't wind up killing Aradel and then summarily being executed, the first elven execution ever, which tells you something about what's going on there.
Yeah.
And Mygelin doesn't become an instrument of the downfall of Gondolin. Maybe none of those things happen if he's not so aggressively.
Yeah. So, are we thinking that we want different, like, unique themes for Hurin and Huor in this season? Do we want like dedicated Hurin and Huor themes?
We have a sorry, my apologies for the phone going off there.
It's okay.
My we have a,
The House of Hador.
We have a House of Hador theme,
Yes.
which is reasonably heroic. It's sort of it begins like
It's a great phrase.
all the human themes start with a 1-5 leap, like for Star Wars, like the. They all start with that. So we've all got the potential to become very heroic. So it's a mildly heroic theme. I was thinking of beefing it up a bit, making it a bit more elaborate for Huron as he takes on the roles of leadership. Doing a variation of it for Huor, but having a lot of harp in it. I figured that harp
Right, a little more contemplative.
Really,
Yeah.
more contemplative, and possibly if I do, because one of the things that particularly Bear McCreary does with his music is he'll have a main theme, but he also has what's called an ostinato associated with that character. And so as soon as you hear that ostinato, that series of notes, you say, "Oh, that character's coming on very soon." Oh, the simplest one is the dwarf theme. Is the Khazad Dûm theme, because I mean we've got the main theme, bum 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 bum,
Right.
but underneath we've got bum 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 bum, and as soon as you hear that run of notes, you know, oh, we're going to see the dwarfs soon. So you can use those kinds of things. So possibly with Estelle, I can have that Estelle as an ostinato underneath Huor's theme, and they go really nicely if they're played by harp as well, and they can be very contemplative, but just sort of make it a little variation of the Hador theme, one for Huron, one for Huor, whenever they're on screen, and of course Handir is there as well in that first episode, and he'll be brought back later on, so he can have a variation of the Halla theme,
Right. Yeah, the Halla theme. Yeah.
which is great. Which
it
is
would be pretty cool if there was a version of, if Hor's theme, as you say, is like a version of the Hador theme with some Estelle sprinkled in there, and the theme for Hurin was the Hador theme with like a little bit of the Amdir in there, you know, or even because I wonder if he doesn't really truly have an identity outside of the Lord of Dorloman until after Angband. At which point, when he comes out, his theme should kind of be like this mix of like the Northern Courage bit and the Estelle and Hador.
Wait, we're doing a theme for Hurin when he leaves Angband?
Like old man Hurin.
Old man,
right?
Okay.
Old
We're a
Hurin
little ahead of the game there,
okay,
but I hear you. I hear you.
But you see what I mean? Because I wonder if he's just like just straight the House of Hador.
Well, I like the development of the house of the Hurin. I don't think he should be just House of Hador, but I hear you. You're talking about his sort of identity being in kind of, you know, taking up the House of Hador and kind of being that.
I mean, maybe have some of the Amdir laid in there to.
That's interesting.
To differentiate him.
I also wonder, and it might be too much to ask, and I don't really know what I'm asking for exactly, but I'm thinking about, especially after episode 1, but especially the way that episode 1 got me thinking about eventually Tuor and the fate of Tuor and whatever, if there might be just a little bit of the Noldor mixed in with the Huor theme as well.
Or the Vanyar theme. Because he kind of emulates them in a way in his relationship with the Noldor, in the way that he emulates their relationship with the Valar.
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Who is to the Noldor what the Vanyar were to the Valar, is what you're saying. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, you had one of the people who was viewing the live stream actually, so when you were having that discussion, and basically say Tuor is the Vanyar, Hurin is the Noldor, Handir is the Teleri.
Right.
So once again, they're emulating those threes again.
Yep. You have the elf guy, the human guy, and the dwarf guy.
Right. All the threes.
And of course, Hurin winds up wielding a ginormous axe.
Right. Right.
Yeah. And even if it's theme or it's instrumentation, that you can bring different things in with either with thematic material or with instrumentation.
Yeah.
So we can look at that, but definitely harp for Huor. That will make him very contemplative.
Yeah. Okay. Good. So I want to make sure not to shortchange this next thing that we need to talk about, which is music from over the Blue Mountains. Thinking about Bree in particular, and this entirely new culture that we are encountering here. So I think we're going to need essentially like an Easterlings theme of some sort, or some sort of music for them.
Not those Easterlings. These the Breelanders.
Yes, the relative Easterlings of Beleriand. So those from the mighty empire of Bree, and what do we? I mean, of course, it is typical in occasions like this to choose some sort of, historical culture to use as an inspiration for this. I don't know if we want to go there, but that's the most common way to do this kind of thing, to convey this is a different culture and a different people that is quite separate from the Edain of Beleriand. We did do a similar thing because we got the Harad music back when we were doing that frame, so we have some experience with this sort of thing. But did you have any thoughts about that? I know you've been listening to us talk about the whole Bree concept and Ulfang and Bor and all those things.
I was really interested in that discussion to try and glean as much information as you were coming up with about that culture. For me, I know you talked about your own biases when it comes to talking about the Easterlings. I always associate them with the Easterlings in the Lord of the Rings,
right? But
I have to remember that they're not the same people,
right?
So yes, they're and so the descriptions, but Tolkien has descriptions, but you guys sort of specified that they were going to be more Mediterranean. I'm not sure whether you meant northern Mediterranean or southern Mediterranean.
Neither am I.
Because there's a difference there.
There's a difference there. You're right.
I believe they were going for Phoenician, which
right.
My brain went
where
to the
in the Mediterranean were the Phoenicians not? I mean,
exactly right.
So yes.
Where in Europe and Asia were the Phoenicians not?
Yeah, I mean if you're gonna pick a culture that can be found anywhere, I mean you pretty much have Phoenicians and Vikings.
Yes.
So I started thinking, because of course my brain thinks of the music very narratively, and I was thinking how it would be really cool if the Breelander theme could, and not it would be by itself initially, but it can be dovetailed in with the Sauron pulling the strings theme, right? Stuff that we've done in the past, and that ultimately can wind up being that kind of creepy country town vibe that you get in Lord of the Rings when the hobbits go to Bree, like that kind of like, and Jackson's film, like the Howard Shore does this really well. He gives us that kind of like old English medieval town, but it's kind of ominous and scary to us because we don't know what's going to happen, right? And because we're little hobbits who don't have no idea what we're getting ourselves into here. But that would make that scene feel get that kind of menacing feel in the end.
So
I'm wondering, do we want that menacing feel? Because
when the hobbits
they're supposed to be like they're supposed to be the agents of hope when they arrive in Beleriand.
Oh, no. What I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. Initially, the Sauron theme is completely absent, but it should be made the Breland theme should be made in such a way that you can kind of slot pieces of the Sauron theme right into it, and be like, oh, that was always part of that. We just didn't know it yet.
So it is gonna. So the really marvelous musical trick to pull off would be to have a piece of music which, when played in a particular way or a particular key and with particular instrumentation, sounds triumphant and imperial and military.
Yes.
But when played in a different way and possibly a different key, and certainly with different instrumentation, becomes the theme for the Bree of the Lord of the Rings. Basically, a country town, an old quiet country town theme. And if so, that would be interesting to see how that could be done. Because they don't have to be the same, because of course. Right. Bree of the Third Age is not the same. Of the late Third Age is not the same as the Bree of the First Age. But of course, Bree of the Third Age has, in its bones, a very old memory, right, of the times that are past. And so, for there still to be a connection between the ancient, but I honestly think that like the music. Like the primary theme of the Bree people, it should be terrifying. I mean, it should be. I mean,
right. This is Imperial March levels of
100%.
Yeah. And you can turn the Imperial March into Anakin's theme. Like you can do that apparently if you're John Williams.
Right.
So no big deal, Phil. No pressure.
Well, look, compared to like write the music of the Ainur, it's a small
easy.
Change.
Easy.
Halfway.
Yeah. But yeah. So there should be kind of like even the heroic version of the Breelander theme should be impressive, not cheery.
Yeah, not cheery.
Yeah. But I don't want to go too far. I don't want to make it like the Empire theme because that immediately tells the audience that we got to watch out for these guys. They're going to betray them. But it all depends on how long you want to hold off with knowledge of that betrayal.
And the answer is a while, for sure. Yeah. Like we want this to be Galadriel's triumph
until
it is. She has to think that she's won over a very good group of people who are really going to help.
Right.
She has to deliver them on a silver platter to the Union of Maedhros and be like, found you guys an army, and everyone's like, Galadriel, you did an amazing job. Right. She has to still think it's working.
Yeah.
Multiple steps into this process.
So then you add in Sauron's hurdy-gurdy strings puppeting the whole thing from the back, right? And then all of a sudden, it's really ominous.
So I'm thinking, in particular, I'm thinking about the character of Volfang, right? Because one of the when I talk about like impressive and even terrifying, I'm not thinking about it in terms of like, oh no, they're gonna be the enemy. I'm thinking like the empire of Bree itself, right? Like the emperor, who's not Ulfang, right? But like the emperor of Bree. When we're just like at Bree, at the center of the power of this mighty empire, the mighty empire should be a terrifying spectacle, right?
Awesome
Ulfang himself, awesome in the classic sense. Yes, exactly. Ulfang himself is a great guy, right? And so Ulfang's kind of strain of and he's going to be the central character for much of it, for much of that whole thread. Certainly the one who is connecting with Galadriel and stuff, right? So Ulfang's theme itself can be like a noble and heroic and incipiently catastrophic version of that powerful militaristic theme that then twists and becomes dark and tainted when Uldor takes over.
I might have to listen to some of the music from the movie 300 because I feel not the like rock battle music,
right?
But I think there's music associated with the Spartans that kind of gets at what we're looking
the kind
to
of thing
get.
I'm talking about. I don't remember the music from that film clearly, but
it wasn't like it didn't stand out,
right.
But as far as like portrayals of groups of people on film that's supposed to be impressive, yes, the Imperial March, they're the bad guys, so obviously musically it doesn't work. But the Egyptians in Ten Commandments are obviously a powerful empire.
Right.
They're also antagonists, but you're not supposed to get the impression that they're like evil. It's more just that they're in the way.
Right. And impressive.
But impressive.
Yeah.
Right.
I would suggest looking to some of the modern films that portray classical empires, because in those situations, typically they are aware. They're very self-aware as far as that's concerned. Like, yes, our protagonists are the good guys in our movie, but we recognize that their culture is human, right? So like I wouldn't go to it, which is why I would think think 300 rather than the 300 Spartans from I think the 60s is when that came out, which portrayed the Spartans almost entirely positively, which is a tough sell.
I'm just sort of wondering how grand. I don't think you defined whether this culture was still primarily building out of wood or whether they were building out of stone. To me, that sort of makes it, well, like when you mentioned Egypt, Marie, that sound I get with like huge stone building. That's much more labor intensive and probably require a slave economy in that era. Rather than building out of wood is still, it can be grand, but it's not as grand, and you probably don't need to have a huge slave contingent to be able to do that. And I'm thinking that if we're trying to portray the Brelanders as being worthwhile allies, we don't want to have like a slave economy going on there.
Fair. The wood is pretty readily available. They're right next to a giant forest. So yes. I would think most of their structures are probably wood. However, they're also right next to the Barrow Downs, and I assume the barrows have stone involved.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
There's a certain amount of stone construction that you can do without.
But maybe not giant pyramids.
Right. They don't have to have ziggurats. Yeah, no, I agree.
Right. But they could have certainly stone structures. Even just like fieldstone more than.
Maybe Bree Hill is a forgotten ziggurat.
Sorry, kind of love that, but yeah.
Okay, so you can do what you want with this, but I have found a choral piece from 300 that kind of gets at what I'm thinking about for these guys. But because something that is martial and adventuresome, right, and powerful, without necessarily and without being brassy and
evil,
without being either evil or heroic, I think is what I'm trying to avoid. And maybe Ulfang, when you see Ulfang, that skews heroic.
Right. Ulfang skews heroic for sure.
But I wouldn't put him in the in the same kind, like when if you put Hurin's music and
Ulfang's not as much music, as Hurin,
you should definitely
for sure.
It should definitely be more neutral than that.
Yes, and more militaristic, less heroic. Yes. And I'm thinking, by the way, that the distinction between the people of Ulfang and the people of Bor can be, I would think that could be a mostly instrumentation thing. I don't think we need a whole different set of, a whole different like style of music. They are a different culture technically. So, I mean, in theory we could have a different, but I don't really think that distinction is going to be crucial. But, since they're going to be, a different, like they're going to be like the chariot cavalry, right? Nick. So it's, anyway, they'll have a
Bor will be, I think, more drums. I think you would hear it would be like a little bit more tribal, for lack of a better word. Like they're not as civilized,
right? Exactly. But again, I don't think we need a whole new, like a whole separate theme for them.
No.
But yes, differences in style and instrumentation on the same basic theme, I think would be fine for Bor versus Ulfang.
Yep, that's got me some good direction on that.
Yeah.
Oh, and when I was thinking about inserting the Sauron's hurdy-gurdy into the Bree-Lander theme. Then when you actually go to Bree in Lord of the Rings, what you do is you make the Bree-Land theme more quaint, and you pull the drone string out of the hurdy-gurdy. So you get that Sauron theme layered over that, but it's not as ominous.
I don't know, man. I don't know that we want the Sauron theme playing in Bree when we get there.
Not in the Third Age. I think
the Third Age. I mean, to be honest, like it's one of the things I really disagreed with in the Fellowship of the Ring film. Like, I don't like Bree being as dark and ominous as it is.
Fair enough.
I feel like that was a choice made because they'd skipped the Old Forest and the Barrow Downs.
And they needed...
And so they wanted the ominous feeling of the Barrow Downs, and they just dumped it in Bree.
Right.
But...
replace the hurdy-gurdy with the mandolin.
But yeah, Bree definitely has a theme by Howard Shore, so I can look at that and do what Bear McCreary has done, because like you do gaming archaeology, I do music archaeology. So in the Rings of Power, I was on the lookout for these are proto themes that Howard Shore wrote in the Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies. How do they relate to that? So that's what I've got to do. It is related to the Bree theme, but won't get me sued for copyright breach.
Exactly. I think of course I was briefly tempted after Nick's reference to think about the Barrow Downs a little bit more, connected with Sauron and necromancy, but I don't think we're going to be in the Barrow Downs enough. We're certainly having a like necromancy, like some kind of combination of the necromancy theme and the like mortality of humans theme to make a Walking Dead theme, that could come in later on for Barrow Wights
Bear McCreary for that.
Yeah, something like that. Anyway,
he did the music for Walking Dead.
Right. I don't mean that Walking Dead, but yes, exactly.
And the ostinato playing in The Walking Dead is like unbelievable. It's amazing those musicians could actually physically play it.
Yeah.
I think what I was trying to bring up was that the theme that I wrote for Necromancy last season, I consider that to be necromancy on elvish spirits. And I
Yes.
wanted there to be a distinction between elvish
Yes.
spirits and human spirits.
Yeah, that's why I was talking about combining it with the mortality theme. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Even if it is only a subtle difference, I want people to, and maybe there is a relation, maybe in the way that it was played, because I don't really remember. I wanted to have a real Sorcerer's Apprentice feel to it,
Yeah.
as magic out of control. So I can add that in as the style of in way it's played, but make the themes different enough to say, yep, we're talking about a slightly different thing here.
Yeah.
And then have echoes of that at least when we get to the Downs chapters.
The Barrow Downs, yeah.
Because in the end, Sauron, he fails with animating. He ends up having to animate the bodies with spirits, not with human spirits. He can't capture the human spirits, can he?
Right.
Not until he has the rings, and that's only for certain values of the word capture.
Right.
Maybe that's an interesting place to go in this season, and that is like his failure to capture human spirits and how he has to actually use. I don't know if you're going to use Maya spirits, or like maybe there are millions of lesser woodland spirits around that and maybe he's gathering them from the environment and corrupting them. But maybe you need to sort of specify that he fails in that area, and that is another thing which spurs him to think about how is a way that I can capture human spirits, and that's through the rings.
Yeah.
Thinking about the way in which, we were talking about, the pot of evil and the necromancy from last season being the kind of the alpha version of the ring of power, and, the kind of the proto rings of power element of Sauron's experimentation there. And so similarly, yes, I agree. His, like, the 9 become like the final, like, mature statement of that theme right down the road. Yeah.
But yeah, if you can try and define this season with the script team, sort of exactly what, and it doesn't have to be in a script, but it would be good to define, well, what exactly is Sauron doing in the Barrow Downs, so that all the script writers know that these are the elements. If they want to show something on screen, they understand how it works, but don't have to explain it. And that will help me in my writing as well. I mean, particularly Bear McCreary said he needed to know who Halbrand was before the actor before Charlie Vickers knew who he was playing, so that he could make sure that those two themes wove in together, and they do, the Halbrand theme and the Sauron theme.
Yeah,
reflections of each other.
Yeah,
because the music never lies, right?
Well,
Exactly
sometimes it
right.
does.
So...
Sometimes it lies. Lies occasionally.
So yeah. So the music can actually display what's happening in the field in the Barrow Downs.
Yeah.
If there is a good definition of what's going on.
Yeah.
And we can just do it internally for SilmFilm to define what this is and whether the criticism from outside, because it really doesn't matter.
Right. Right. Yeah, and I don't know how much we're going to end up doing in the Barrow Downs this season. So that's why I was hesitant even to bring it up, because it might not end up being, I mean, if we don't actually show Sauron do, I know it's certainly not going to be connected to the story of this season, what he does in the Barrow Downs. Like, it's not going to impact what happens this season. But it's mostly like what kind of brings him to Bree, basically. But anyway, it's, the Barrow Downs are still there. We're still going to see the Barrow Downs, presumably. So,
and if Sauron's going to be there, it might be there for a few seasons.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. We'll be, it's definitely something to be thinking about, because it will certainly come up. But.
And what about Galadriel in this context? The only theme that was ever directly associated with her was the reconciliation. spectrum, but the final theme in that, which you said would be perfect for Galadriel and Celeborn's wedding.
Yes.
But I don't really want to be rolling out her wedding theme to follow her around.
Right,
everywhere.
with everybody else she has conversations with too.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, essentially, she is Noldor, so she does have that theme backing her, and maybe we need to remind the audience of that as well. Hey, the same theme's playing when we're seeing Galadriel as when we're seeing action, say, with Fingon in Hithlum.
I think we should be developing the Lady Galadriel theme in this season, because we're getting kind of like General Galadriel in a way. Here.
You mean like the Galadriel as authority figure theme, basically, like the ruler Galadriel,
right.
the mover and shaker Galadriel. Yeah, no, because I mean that is going to be a really important element of her character,
and we're building to that.
We are building to that.
Finally.
So
finally. I mean, we're only what percentage of the way through Galadriel's arc are we here? You know, I mean, come on. But yeah. Yes.
Talking about the very beginnings of a unique Galadriel theme.
Yeah, I think, that unique Galadriel theme, it needs to remember the Melian theme, as that's going to be, the kind of parallel, how Galadriel is going to eventually, certainly in the Third Age, be setting herself up as like the little, like the mini Melian of the Third Age, right? So there should be some echoes, I think, between Galadriel and Melian.
Of the grotto.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And once again, we've got the final theme by Howard Shore in Lothlorien in the Third Age, and that will be sort of what the progression, the music will eventually progress to something like that. Because if we're ever going to do SilmFilm in the Third Age,
totally,
it'll be full of copyright traps for me.
Oh no, it'll be fine. Yeah, but don't worry. It's like perhaps Howard Shore's music will be in the public domain by the time we get there, so it'll be fine.
That's right.
What, Marie? You don't think you think we're gonna get there before like 2076 or something? I don't know. Anyway,
one can hope.
Yeah, one can hope that we will. Yeah, no, I agree.
2076,
Don't think about it.
Pushing 100 for sure.
Yeah.
I'd be 94.
It's fine. I'll still be younger than Bilbo. It'll be fine.
We all only have so many decades left in us. Let's not think about this.
Neil deGrasse Tyson thinks that the first person who's not going to die of old age has already been born.
Wow. Yeah, I keep hearing people saying that. We'll see. But in any case, we're good. We'll have plenty of time. It'll all be good. But anyway, so beginning to develop the Galadriel theme. I don't know if if it's imperative to roll it out in this season, but I agree. It's time to start developing that. And, it would be interesting. I mean, Galadriel's story is going to go through a bunch of different seasons. I mean, as Nick says, there's the the Lady Galadriel, the Queen Galadriel sort of element. There's the General Galadriel element. There's even going all the way back to the reconciliation theme in season 4. That's also sort of still there.
I wonder if we're going to get an Ale Galadriel. Because that seems to be the best place to take her without hurting anybody. If we were to make
to isolate her,
to make her do something.
If we want to give her a dark goth period of her life, I see, right? Okay, yeah.
I like it.
Okay, I don't know that we do want to do that, but if we did want to do that,
we could. Well, we'll talk.
You got to. All right. Okay. Good, good. Well, we can talk about it. We can talk about it.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
The
So
second age is a weird place.
second age is a weird place. Yeah. Um, yes. Yes. Um, yes. Okay. Thinking about the New Ninth or Nodiad, and this is sort of the last big thing. Thinking about the actual battle and suffering and everything. Um, the the groups of people that we have involved, most of them already have themes. Do we have a Gondolin theme yet? Specifically,
Yes. Oh,
we
yeah,
did. Yeah,
yeah,
I
yeah,
thought so.
yes.
I thought so. So my memory is that most of the groups like listed on this slide, the Feanorians, the elves of Hithlum, well, the elves of Hithlum. That's the
Yep. Fingon's people.
Fingon's people.
Yep.
With
Yep.
dwarves, men of Dorlo, the House of Hador, the House of Haleth, Gondolin, they all have themes established already. And if we're kind of bringing them together in the context, you were talking about the overarching like Amdir theme of the Union of Mithros there. So thinking about how to bring all those folks together in that context specifically will be interesting.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. I don't think there'll be much need for use of the Oath of Feanor. Possibly only early in the season, where if in scenes where Maedros is talking his brothers out of attacking Doriath.
Right.
So yeah,
Right.
but I can't see the Oath I can't see the Oath having any appearance in the Nernaeth at all.
So there's only one place, but it's really indirect, and I don't know if it would work to have the Oath of Feanor theme involved. But I'm thinking about, to some extent, right, the betrayal on the, in the Near Ninth is a fulfillment of, or like one of those kinds of things that is clearly foreboded in the Curse of Mandos. Right.
Yeah, the Doom of Mandos.
The Doom of Mandos. Yeah, that from treachery and the fear of treachery, right? So when the betrayal happens, again, but it feels to me like when I actually imagine in my head, the armies of Uldor, piling in and attacking the Feanorians from the rear, and the Oath of Feanor theme plays, that doesn't feel right in my head. Even though it is like a repercussion of of the kinslaying and again through the Doom of Mandos, but it's not
possibly the Doom of Mandos would be playing. And
Yeah.
the Mandos theme.
Yeah.
To link that back to.
Yeah, that would be the more sensible connection, I think.
But there would probably be a Feanorian battle theme that we have yet constructed that has probably been around since season 3. I would imagine when the Feanorians were just like bulldozing
right in the
the
Battle of the Stars,
second battle, the second battle of the stars, and then again in the
Dagger
the
Aglareb.
Dagger Aglareb, and Dagger
Dagger
Bragalak, with the
Bragalak,
defensive.
Yeah, we're up to the 5th battle now,
Yeah.
and the Feanorians have been in all but the first. So yes.
Yes, we've had plenty of opportunities.
Surely, I mean, I come on, Philly, you've definitely been sleeping on that because other more important things to be doing. But surely there would be something that would be involved there.
Okay, we'll see. We'll see. The Dwarves of Belagos. The one thing, Corey, you're the only person who's heard my the first part of the Einlindalay, which features all of the themes of the Valar. One thing you might not have picked up was that I changed Aulay's theme, because the more I listened to Aulay's theme that I have published on YouTube, I just didn't think that it represented like the Valar. It's a really good dwarf theme.
Mm-hmm.
So I think so I'm happy to use that theme for the dwarves of Belagost, and I would put it in the battle there. Do we actually have the dwarves of Nogrod involved in any way?
No, they're not present. I think
We'll get
they
them later.
interact at some point.
Yep, no, that's fine. I'm happy to do a different dwarf theme for them.
We do have a musical number in this season.
Mm-hmm.
The dirge of Azagal.
Yes, true. Diegetic music. The funeral dirge of Azagal.
Actually two. There's that one. That's the prominent one, and then Angel Eyes on the boards had mentioned that Hurin tries to compose a song for Lilith after she dies, and he can't. So he ends up breaking his harp instead. So that would be a song that you don't have to write the whole thing.
Right, the failed beginnings of a song for Lilith. Yeah, ending with the sound of someone breaking a harp. So that's yeah.
Yep.
No big deal.
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yep. Yeah. In terms of more, yeah. So the hosts involved with the Union of Maedros, yeah, we can. There are themes already in place for all of those, and I'll think about a more heroic theme for the Feanorians. I'll see if that's possible or not. But Morgoth's forces, yeah, I've done one for Boldog and the Orcs. Glaurung has a theme. I was thinking of for baby dragons, I'd just sort of do like Piccolo, or like the same theme with Piccolos as they're scurrying around.
I think baby dragons are more intimidating than Piccolos.
they're like they're where Glaurung was in season 4, so they're still pretty nasty, and they're gonna show up and murder some people for sure.
Yeah. I was thinking more the size of the small worms in Lotro. They're actually sort of
right. Yeah, no, they're larger than that.
Size.
Yeah, I think they're bigger than that, but
okay. Well, we want to make sure that the expedition that goes in to sabotage them can take quite a few of them out. Don't want it to be too big. And as for the Balrogs, I have ideas of the Balrogs. I want to go back and eventually do a piece for the fall of the lamps. Just the birth of the Balrogs, but I want the Balrog theme to come out of Arian's theme, which I have done for the rising of the sun. And she has this little da 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 da, this little trill in it, and I just wanted to be bum 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 bum.
Yes. Definitely,
that is exactly what I heard in my head when he
exactly. Yep. No, like bruising and Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So I'd probably I'd be able to introduce it, just insert it into certain scenes if I was writing for a particular scene in the Nerneath, and add a little bit of Balrogs in there.
And the Balrogs could have connection to Morgoth's themes as well, because they're very much his followers. So
yes,
I know you've written several pieces for Morgoth at this point. So.
Yeah,
they're all variations of the same thing.
Right.
Anyway.
So the Balrogs could fit in with some of those variations as well.
Exactly.
Right.
Are there any particular parts of the Nerneath that are shaping up for sort of appearing at this stage to be dramatic and wanting score written, or is that something, are we likely to only see that when you talk about that in your script discussions?
The arrival of the Gondolindrim is a big deal.
The Gwyndor's charge.
That's the other one I was going to say. Yep.
That needs to be tragic.
Yeah. Waiting from Maedhros should have like a particular sound. When it's like all quiet on the Western Front. Right,
and they're waiting for Maedhros to attack. Yeah,
and then Maedhros, when he finally does show up, but we already talked about that. The treachery of
Uldor,
Freelanders, the treachery of Uldor, the murder of Ulfang.
And then the whole dragon trap situation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that could be quite dramatic in music. Yep.
Yep.
So there's gonna be 4 episodes of this battle.
Yeah.
That's 4 hours of stuff happening. You can write as much music as you want for it.
Yeah.
We'll find a place for it.
Of course, also like the death of Fingon
Yeah.
by the Balrogs, of course, is going to be another important moment there.
And then the moment between Huor and Turgon we talked about.
Right, which we talked about.
Hurin's last stand, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Hurin getting dragged off to Angband by...
Yeah. And the swelling of Estelle at that moment, at his last stand. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, no, that's good. And I always keep my eye on the scripts and how they're developing, because as I'm reading the scripts, it'll be like, yep, that scene needs a piece of music.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Well, I think, let's see. Oh, yeah, the frame. We didn't talk about the frame yet. So let's talk about the frame a little bit. So we've got the White Council meeting.
In the Hobbit movie, in the first Hobbit movie, as a model of what we've already seen and what happens. I can just take you through it. Like it starts with Gandalf and Elrond climbing the stairs up to where it's going to be, and there's sort of a few elements of the Rivendell theme sort of peppered in there. When they get up to the top and you see Galadriel, you just get hit with the Lothlorien theme as it focuses on her, and no one hasn't really noticed this, but when the camera turns to focus on Saruman, you hear in the very low brass the Isengard theme, and it's but there's a whole lot of music going on over the top, and you're focusing on that music, and I didn't notice it. Like, I'd watched it or listened to the music 3, 4 or 5 or 6 times before it was suddenly I just heard the Isengard theme in there. So it's hidden, and that's the premise of my belief that Saruman had already gone bad at that point. Despite what Christopher Lee said about how he played the role, music tells a different story. I'm sorry, Christopher.
Right.
And then and then as they start to discuss, the musical themes move from all the different across all the different points of discussion that they're having there, and so you'll get the when they're talking about the necromancy, you get the Sauron Mordor theme playing there. And there's a whole lot of ominous music through there as well, and Gandalf and Galadriel have their little telepathic high-pitched music going on with the female voices getting higher and higher and higher in that part there. So it's that's sort of how it was done in the past, and I just sort of wanted to point that out to say we've seen an example of that already.
Yeah,
We're gonna have discussion of the fate of the ring. So whatever our ring theme is going to be would probably a version of it would probably be present.
Yeah.
And yes. I'm just sort of wondering whether I don't think you've developed like the full frame story yet at this stage, have you?
No.
So it'll probably be later, and if I do something, it'll be sort of like the Harrod suite, which will link all of the scenes together. That seems to be a better way of doing it.
I think so. Glorfindel should have a little bit of Gondolin in them.
But it's once again, but this is in the realm of let's see, we've got things like the ruins of Eregion, so it's not Eregion in its high point,
right?
In its heyday. By the way, you mightn't have noticed that there is a Eregion theme in Rings of Power. It just hasn't been showcased or highlighted at all, and it's only very brief. So I imagine that we're going to get an expansion on that theme in season 2.
Well, they're only there for a couple of minutes before they teleport to Moria anyway. So
well, I think I was actually pretty impressed that Nick went that long without a snarky comment, but uh,
I've been holding.
I know,
back for a while.
You've been good. It is one of the challenges, I was going to say, of this frame in particular, is that this frame brings in a whole bunch of both third and second age stuff that we haven't done yet in SilmFilm, right? So, like, what is exactly, Eregian music gonna be like in SilmFilm? What are the Astari, the whole suite of Rings of Power music, from the 3 and the 7 and the 9 and the 1, the Dunedain, right? I mean, we have kind of established music for the Adain, but to go all the way to the other side, not only the other side of Numenor, but the other side of like the Dunedain, the decline of the Dunedain kingdoms and whatever. Anyway, so it is complicated.
It's sort of like there would be fragments
right.
of themes and hints, but I don't think there would be anything you could go back to and say, oh look, yeah, that was recognizably a theme.
Right.
So
right.
But yeah, things that I could possibly pull up later on and say, oh look, how can I develop this more?
Yes, exactly. They'd be seeds for future development. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's always in that development process. Lots of people might be surprised after knowing Star Wars for their entire lives, knowing that the Empire theme does not appear in the first Star Wars movie at all. It was only written for The Empire Strikes Back.
Right.
And it's strange to go back and look at it in hindsight and say, well, why wasn't the Empire theme there? I was like, well, they didn't need an Empire theme.
Right.
At that point. So it's a similar situation. It doesn't have to be specific music on that, but it can be music that can hint at later themes.
Right.
I did have it like for the Harrod suite. I did a small theme for Gandalf. First time Gandalf's ever got a theme anywhere. He never had a theme in by Howard Shore. But I did a little thing there, and I worked out sort of this is how the Astari are going to sound, like a sequence, a pattern for Astari. And just so that I know, and I know you have like your idea of the different colours being different roles for the Astari, but would you also consider there to be a hierarchy?
Well, there is, in the sense that Saruman is definitely in charge. What I am less convinced by is that there is organically a more complicated hierarchy other than just like them and one is in charge. Like for instance, is does Radagast rank below or above Gandalf? Like that, I'm not convinced that's a sensible question, actually. Like, the only evidence we have for that are Saruman's words of scorn, which I think do not represent, reality and
also Círdan's words and reaction as well, because it was considered when the Astari arrived, it was considered that Gandalf was the least of all of them, and yet Círdan saw something different to that. So that's sort of like there's a perceived hierarchy, and I built the Astari themes around that hierarchy. So with Gandalf being considered the lowest in the hierarchy, and Saruman considered the highest. I would put the blue together, but I just sort of wanted to know blue and brown. Then we know very little about them.
We know very little about any of them. But it's hard to define. I mean, it's hard to define how.
Really, by the time of the Lord of the Rings, Radagast is not considered very highly amongst the Astari.
Basically, we know they were grouped, where Saruman traveled with the Blue Wizards and Gandalf and Radagast traveled together to come to Middle Earth. But rankings within those groups weren't particularly important, apparently.
Yeah. Just
at least it's not clear for sure.
Yeah, that's right. And anyway, that was where I was thinking of going with the Astari, just sort of in terms of ranking among them, and that being used to define them, because what does blue sound like? What does brown sound like?
Right. Yeah. Again, and there I would think mostly of roles, or at least, I mean, the one other thing to go by is which of the Valar they're associated with in Unfinished Tales, right? Because then you could connect it to the themes of those Valar as well. Bring in some Orome over here. Bring in some some Yavanna over there. Yeah, exactly. Some Aule. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yep. No, good. No, that's fine. We'll see if I can do something to carry the frame topic.
Yep. Awesome. Cool. Excellent. Well, that brings us to the end of commissioning. Lots of ideas still to come, and of course, as we said before, lots of season 6 music also still to, so maybe a little bit sprinkled in as we move forward with season 7 music there as well. But I'm that's happy, good. Any final questions you had, Phil?
I'm happy for people to contact me on the forums. You can post I keep my eye on the music forums there. So music season 7, start a thread in there. I'll keep my eye on that and reply to any suggestions in there. And I'm happy to collaborate with people. Some of the best numbers, like the song battle between Finrod and Sauron. I mean, Ilana as the writer of the song, Dylan and Evan as singers it was just fantastic. So happy to. We won't have as much need, as you said, for vocalists this season, but I'm happy to sort of pick up people's ideas. We've had times where people have written a theme and I've orchestrated it. So happy to do that as well. I sort of see my role as being sort of musical director.
Right.
Not necessarily chief writer and a musical director.
Yeah. Excellent. Well, it's exciting. It's been really fun to see that team kind of growing, Phil, over the years, and hearing more and more of the wonderful collaborative music that's been coming out of that has been really it's been one of the things I've been really excited to see happen in the last few years. It was always I mean, I've loved the work you've been doing from the beginning, but that it felt like a lonely job for you the first few seasons. You on your own, just kind of. But anyway, it's been fun to see the collaboration. That's been great.
And the first few seasons, we were still really unsure of how things were going, because my first session was with Ted Naismith.
Yeah.
And I think the first session was with the guy from the Lonely Mountain Band.
Oh yeah,
John DiBartolo.
John. And then we had Ted Naismith. So it took a while for me to warrant sessions all on my own, where I didn't have to be the support act.
Yeah, no, that's great. All right, well, thank you so much for joining us, Phil. Appreciate it. I know it's the middle of the workday for you, so I appreciate you
after this.
Yeah, I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us here today. Our next session is going to be wait a second. It's not going to be on Thursday, May 30th. I forgot to fix this on the slide. It's going to be a week after that. So it's going to be Thursday, June 6th is in fact going to be our next one. So we're going to talk about episode 2, right? So we're going to be this is the return, and what's the end point of episode 2? I'm forgetting. Roughly?
Good Lord.
Hondir will make it back to Brethel at the end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The Feanorians will sort out what they're all up to.
So we're gonna get the beginning, like the Maedhros' beginnings with the origin of the Union of Maedhros. Okay.
Right. So he's still in the east for this episode, and Galadriel is having a chat with Treebeard.
Nice. Oh, come on! You can't ask for better, right? Galadriel, Treebeard, the Feanorians. And the return of the lost.
But obviously, the focus of the episode is the return to Dor-lon.
The return to Dorloman, absolutely, and then eventually to Breath Hill. Awesome, very cool, very good. So we look forward to that. You guys going to be discussing episode 3, right? And that's a week next week, right?
A week from tomorrow.
A week from tomorrow. Yep.
Or today.
Tomorrow. It's still night. It's Thursday night. That's the way it works.
Friday already.
Yeah, it's Friday. That's right.
Well, you're on the other side of
That's
the
right.
international.
It's Friday for Phil because the sun's up. You see, that makes it Friday. All right, very good. Thanks everybody for joining us. Wonderful session tonight. Really appreciate that. Look forward to moving on to episode 2 next time. Thanks to everybody, and we will see you guys soon. Thanks for listening, and Godspeed.